Yeah, those are the greats. Phil's just one leg away. This is Mary Mickelson, Phil's mom. Mary, we are so happy to have you in studio today.
Thank you.
Thank you for asking.
We had such a great experience with you at the American Cancer Society Gala, Amber and I. For me, prior to hearing you speak, I promise you, Phil was a guy on the sports pages and a guy on TV, but after hearing you talk that night, he became like so human to me. I know that sounds a little weird, you know, but you were just so incredible that night.
Well, thank you.
You made an impact.
Well, thank you.
Todd Leonard, our golf writer here at the UT San Diego, is joining us on the phone. Todd, I think you know Mary Mickelson.
Really well, and thankfully I'm so glad to know her because they're such a wonderful family. And I was over at Mary's house last week, in fact, dropping off some pictures for her. And we had this nice, really nice talk at the kitchen table about Phil and his kids. And Mary's so gracious, and it was just neat to hear her stories. I could sit and listen to her stories for hours.
Well, that's the way I feel. I feel like we don't have enough time, nearly enough time. You must be beyond just proud mom, and not just a Phil, of your other kids as well. But how many grandchildren do you have?
I have 5. Actually, two sets of groups. Phil's are 14, 11, and 10. And then Tina, my daughter Tina, has 2 little ones. So you get to do fun things with an older group and then really fun things with the younger ones.
As Todd mentions that he was over at your house just last week, is that the same house? I mean, have you guys been living there the whole time? Did Phil and his brothers and sisters all grow up in the same house?
Yes. I was 9 months pregnant when I had Phil when we moved in. So that was 1970. And we've been there. That's our home.
Well, this entire time. Todd, I'd love to see more of that in your story. I don't know when we may see it, but boy, I'd like to see more of where Phil grew up.
Well, we've, you know, Scott, we've done a few things, and the thing that fascinates me is the hole that Phil Sr. built in the backyard. That is just gorgeous, and really where Phil started to learn his short game. He would not have the short game he has if Phil Sr. hadn't built that hole, I'm sure. And then Mary and Phil were talking the other day about how their little grandson, who's 2, Tina's son, is now completely into golf, and he's going to take over this hole now and become the next Phil, I'm sure.
You know what, Todd, what I really liked about the article as well is I know that you had asked Mary before which of Phil's kids were most like him. And you had answered the question, a couple of the girls kind of take certain aspects of him. I just want to know, because I'm curious, at what age did you see that Phil had the possibility? I think all parents at one point in time think, oh, my child's the best at this. But was there ever like a moment where you're like, oh my gosh, my son is truly good at this sport?
He was about 14.
14.
And, you know, he played in a lot of San Diego tournaments, but they were always the same kids. And when he was 14, we introduced him to the American Junior Golf Program. And we got in our camper and we went up to Tahoe. And he won that tournament. And they were children from all over the United States. Right. So Phil and I looked at each other and we thought, you know, maybe there's something here. He's playing well in comparison. And then from there, we came down to Palm Springs and he won that tournament. And I think that was the moment when we looked at each other and said, you know, this could be something for his future.
Wow.
And Todd, I feel like as we go back to Todd Leonard from the UT San Diego Sports Department, I feel like maybe you've covered that ever since maybe Phil was close to 14.
Well, almost. I mean, I think we started covering him, or I started covering him, you know, during when he started his pro career. But I, you know, have so many stories about Phil in junior golf and high school. And Mary and I were just talking the other day about Harry Rudolph, who was a great rival of Phil's. You know, Harry owns Harry's Coffee Shop in La Jolla now, and it was just fun to hear about all those things, you know. And everybody who knows Phil back then talks about, you know, the turned up collar and the big smile, and you'd always thank the sponsors when he won. You know, so Phil was very smooth, I think, even back then, as far as being aware of other people and being aware of what his commitment was and his, you know, dedication to the game and also the people who made it happen.
Mary, where did he get that? Because it's not like Phil Sr. was a pro golfer.
No.
You weren't a pro athlete. I mean,
no.
Where did Phil get this innate sense of understanding who he was and sort of who he was working for in the early days?
You know, I'm not sure, because as a youngster, my husband and I were very concerned that he could not, we didn't think that he could speak about anything except for golf. So we were concerned as parents.
Was he a good student in school, or was he
was
just
a good student,
okay,
but he did just what he had to do,
right,
not a bit more.
Okay, because he was just, golf was his thing.
Exactly. So we would have these parent-teacher conferences, and I never saw him doing homework at home. And I would say, you know, Philip, you've got this program or this test or whatever. Mom, it's all under control. So we decided to just back off.
Todd, we do appreciate your contribution to this conversation. Thank you so much. Great piece in today's paper, and we'll look forward to talking to you again real soon. Thanks so much, Todd Leonard. Mary, by the way, I think a lot of parents are loving hearing you say this, because believe me, I know. My son, baseball, that's all he cares about, right?
Exactly.
School, don't worry, I got it handled. And I'm like, can I see some grades? Yeah, I'll get, you know. So I think a lot of moms and dads are excited to hear you talk about this. But coming back, when we chat next, we were so moved by what you said at the American Cancer Society Gala about your own struggles through breast cancer. And I just feel like that probably is a big part of Phil's perseverance. Let's have that conversation when we come back.
Okay.